What is up, you guys? Naesam here, and today I will be making this Elemental Shaman guide for Legion. I've spent quite a few days now testing everything, writing it all down. I'm making absolute certain that it is accurate, so I could make a video into it. And just as a warning, there's going to be a lot of information in this video, so if you're only here for a specific thing, make sure to check the little overlay I have on one of the corners. I'm not exactly certain where I'm putting it yet, but it should have like the 4 main points. I'm going to be going over things like various talents and rotations and openers and stuff for all the different amounts of targets. So I only put 4 little clickable things because I didn't want to just completely fill the screen with them. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with this guide, so hope you guys learn something. So the very first piece of information that isn't really a part of any segment or anything is the stat priority. And as of right now, if it changes, I will put an annotation, but as of right now, stat priority is Intellect, Critical Strike, Haste. Haste is about equal, but slightly over Versatility, and Versatility is way over Mastery. Mastery is very, very low on the stat priority, which is something most people didn't predict, but yeah, that's the stat priority in a nutshell. So the first major section of this guide is going to be the Talent section. In the Talent section, I'm going to describe the Single Target, Cleave, and 3 or more target AoE talents. So obviously the first one's going to be Single Target. For the 15 talent, you can use Totem Mastery or Earth and Rage. They're pretty much the same DPS. The only big thing that you want to keep in mind is that Earth and Rage gains a lot over Totem Mastery if there's a lot of movement. 30 and 45 talents are pretty irrelevant to your DPS. Gust of Wind is like the go-to for DPS, but if you need the other two, then definitely get those because those are a lot more helpful to the raid as a whole. For the 60 talent tier, Echo of the Elements and Ancestral Swiftness are very close, but Ancestral Swiftness does pull ahead. Echo of the Elements does give minor benefits to the gaming experience though, it's because you don't waste your Lava Surge procs as frequently, but overall it's slightly worse than Ancestral Swiftness. The 75 talent tree is Primal Elementalist being number 1, and if there's a whole lot of movement that is predictable, you can go with Ice Fury. For the 90 talent tier, Elemental Mastery pulls ahead of the other two by quite a bit, so you pretty much always want to be using that. For the 100 talent tier, Ascendance is by far the best since the other two are basically AoE. So Cleave is about 2 targets, usually close together but not always. But for the Cleave talents, there are very few differences from single target, but the differences are noticeable. For the 15 talent tree, you go for Totem Mastery over Earth and Rage. They aren't really that close anymore because Totem Mastery does buff your Flame Shock damage, and Flame Shock onto 2 targets adds up quickly. 30 and 45, same thing. 60 talent, Ancestral Swiftness or Echo of the Element, they become even closer because you get a lot more Lava Surge procs, so Echo of the Elements, saving those procs becomes a lot more effective. So that's basically down to preference. 75 talent is exactly the same Primal Elementalist unless there's extreme movement, then you can use Ice Fury. And the 90 talent is exactly the same Elemental Mastery. And the 100 talent kind of depends on the positioning. If the mobs are separated, you can go for Ascendance as single target, basically just do your normal single target thing. But if they are close together, then you go for Lightning Rod for that chain lightning damage. So for 3 or more targets, you're once again going with Totem Mastery. Unfortunately, Path of Flame has a very small range for which it spreads, and it's kind of buggy anyway, so you kind of want to avoid that one. 30 and 45 are, once again, irrelevant to your DPS. For the 60 talent, if there's 3 targets, you want to use Echo of the Elements for the procs. If there's more than 3 targets, you want to go with Ancestral Swiftness for the haste. The 75 talent, Primal Elementalist unless extreme movement, then use Ice Fury as every other section suggests. For the 90 talent, for 3 targets, you go with Elemental Mastery. For 4 or more targets, you go with Aftershock for the extra earthquakes. And now for 100 talent, Lightning Rod for consistent AoE, Liquid Magma Totem for periodic AoE. So the second section of this guide is going to be about the rotations. I will be going over single target, 2 target, 3 target, 4 target, and 5 target or more AoE rotations. Not all of them AoE obviously, but yeah, basically every single amount of mobs you could ever possibly come across will be in this section. So your single target rotation is the highest priority is to maintain Flame Shock on the target. Number 2 is Earth Shock at or above 92 Maelstrom. Next, if you have Elemental Blast, you should be using that. Next, if you have Ice Fury, you should be using that. And then Lava Burst, Earth Shock at or above 86 Maelstrom. Refresh Totem Mastery if below 10 seconds remaining, assuming you have that talented, and then Lightning Bolt Filler. So your cleave rotation is very similar, except for your main priority is to keep Flame Shock on both targets. Everything else is the same up until your filler. Instead of using Lightning Bolt, you only use Lightning Bolt if a Power of the Maelstrom procs, and otherwise you use Chain Lightning as your filler. So for your 3-target rotation, you want to maintain Flame Shock on all 3 targets, assuming they will stay alive for more than 15 seconds. Next thing you want to do is apply Liquid Magma Totem to the area. Then Earthquake only if all 3 targets will remain alive and within the radius for the full duration. If the Earthquake does not affect them like that, you want to be using Earth Shock at or above 92 Maelstrom, Elemental Blast if talented, Lava Burst, Earth Shock at or above 86 Maelstrom, refresh your Totem Mastery if below 10 seconds remaining, assuming you're talented into that, and then Chain Lightning Filler. If you're using Lightning Rod though, you have to make sure you're casting Chain Lightning on a target that is not affected by your Lightning Rod, because it doesn't... Lightning Rod, the way it works, it does not affect any target hit, it only affects the main target, so if you proc it once, you gain a lot more benefit out of trying to get it to proc on a separate target instead of just refreshing the duration. So for 4-target rotation, you maintain Flame Shock on only 1 target. Next thing is Liquid Magma Totem if talented, Earthquake if at least 3 targets will remain alive and within a radius for the full duration. Obviously, if that is not the case, you can Earth Shock at or above 92 Maelstrom, then Lava Burst only if it's an instant cast proc. That's mostly just to refresh or apply your Elemental Focus buff so you can get more damage out of that. Then Earth Shock at or above 86 Maelstrom, once again assuming your Earthquake is not applicable. Then refresh your Totem Mastery if you're talented to do that, and then Chain Lightning Filler, and the same rules apply as 3-target with Lightning Rod. So the 5 or more target rotation is just Liquid Magma Totem if talented, Earthquake, there's no real rules for this, as long if there's 5 or more targets, you basically just Earthquake. Refresh Totem Mastery and Chain Lightning Filler with the same rules with the Lightning Rod. So that is it for the rotations. The next section of this guide is going to be going over the openers. This will include the single target, 2 target, 3 target, and 4 or more target opener. So starting with the single target opener, before the pull you want to put down Totem Mastery, put down your Fire or Storm Elemental, use your potion and precast Lava Burst if you're comfortable doing so. Now be careful, because if you aren't comfortable doing your precast and you mess it up, you could pull the boss early and screw it up for everyone else, so you want to be sure you know when to start using it. Usually about 1 second on the pull timer is okay. Definitely practice this kind of thing on a training dummy before taking it into your guild raid or whatever though, if you have not done it before. And then the start of the encounter, immediately after the boss is pulled, you Flame Shock, pop a Sentence and Elemental Mastery, and then just kind of spam your normal single target rotation with that. And then after that, after a Sentence is over, then you use Stormkeeper, empty the charges, and then continue on with your normal rotation. So for the 2-target cleave rotation, this will be assuming that they are close together, because if they are not, the only difference is that you want to Flame Shock both targets. Other than that, you would just do your normal single target. But assuming the two targets are within Chain Lightning distance of each other, the starting is very similar. You want to Totem Mastery, Fire Ellie, Potion, but then after that you want to Stormkeeper and precast Chain Lightning. Then after the encounter starts, you continue casting Chain Lightning until all of your Stormkeeper charges are exhausted, and then you apply Flame Shock to both targets. The 3-target opener is exactly the same as the 2-target, except for after your Stormkeeper charges are exhausted, you use Flame Shock on all 3 targets. Pretty simple, right? So on 4 or more target AoE opener, first you obviously do the Totem Mastery, if talented, Fire or Storm Ellie, Potion, Stormkeeper, precast Chain Lightning. Then after the encounter starts, the first thing you want to do is put down a Liquid Magma Totem. Then after your Stormkeeper charges are exhausted, you apply Flame Shock to 1 target, only if 4 targets. If there are 5 or more targets, you just disregard that step and just continue on with your AoE rotation. So that concludes the opener section of the guide. This final section is going to be about how you use your cooldowns. So when I say this, I mean like when you use it, in what situations, things like that. So I'm basically going to be going over every single cooldown, so some of you guys may know some of this stuff already, but maybe you'll learn something. Starting with Heroism, that's a pretty obvious one. You use that as directed by your raid leader. Never really just use it randomly, unless you know exactly when to use it. Fire or Storm Ellie, use it on cooldown, use it on pull. The only time you don't want to use it is if it will not be able to attack the boss for the full for the full 60 seconds. Stormkeeper, use on cooldown, except for the one major thing that a lot of people are doing wrong, is that you do not want to try and optimize this with Power of the Maelstrom. You use it on cooldown regardless of if you have it proc or not. And if there's AoE coming up, you want to definitely save it for the Chain Lightning, because it gets way more benefit out of that. Like, for every target, it's doubling the benefit that it gets out of Chain Lightning instead. So you're willing to save this for 30 or 45 seconds if you need to get that on the AoE instead. Unless you absolutely need to kill a boss. Single target, super hard. Ice Fury use on cooldown with the rotational rules, unless needed for specific target swaps. Ice Fury is a very powerful tool for swapping to a random spawn or something. So unless you're saving that, use it on cooldown in conjunction with rotation though. Elemental Mastery, use this on cooldown assuming movement is not needed for at least 15 seconds of the 20-second duration. And one major thing that I get asked a lot is, do you want to save this for other cooldowns? And the answer is no. You do not want to save this for Ascendance. You want to get as many uses out of it as possible. However, if the boss will die before you get another use out of it, like for example, if it's your second use 2 minutes into the fight, and the boss will die before 4 minutes into the fight, it is okay to save it for Ascendance because you get more total DPS increase, but if you can use it again, you definitely want to just use it on cooldown. Get it out of the way so you can do it again. Ascendance has the exact same rules as that, except for that you don't want Flame Shock falling off, so make sure it has at least 15 seconds duration left. Because having to reapply a Flame Shock during Ascendance is a big waste of a global. The Liquid Magma Totem, you want to just use that on cooldown, unless a big add wave is coming or something, but as long as there's 3 or more targets present, you can basically just use it on cooldown freely. Primal Earth Elemental, that is not something most people consider a real cooldown, but it is very useful for the occasional AoE stun or emergency add tanking, but for the most part it's pretty useless. But that stun can be pretty good if it's primal. If it's not primal, I don't think it stuns, so that sucks. Ancestral Guidance, you basically just use this whenever a whole bunch of people are taking damage, or if your raid leader or healing officer calls for it. It's also extremely effective, surprisingly, if you use it with Stormkeeper on AoE because of the burst. So if you want to really heal up the raid, that's a good time to use it. Then Windrush Totem, you basically just use this whenever raid movement is needed or as directed by your raid leader. So the final thing I wanted to address was that if you need an artifact path for LA Shaman, that'll be in the description. I'll probably put that in the outro as well. It's also on my channel, obviously, so if you have not seen that yet and you want to see the artifact path, definitely check that out, because I did all the math and stuff, and I can assure you it is as accurate as I could possibly get it. So I think that is all the information I can possibly give you for now. I might be making another guide with like more advanced tips type of thing. It's not really going to be a guide, it's more going to be a tips and tricks type of thing. But I can't promise that, and if I do make it, I have no idea when it'll be coming out. But yeah, hopefully I can make that. But regardless, if you want to see a summary of this, check the description. There should be a Google Doc in there with all the information I used to make this guide, all of which was extensively tested to make sure it is accurate. But I think that is about it for this video. This took me many days of theory crafting and writing things down to have it all prepared and accurate for you guys. So if you liked it, definitely, I would appreciate it if you gave it a like. If you want to see more from me, go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see anything specific, let me know in the comment section. You can also just comment whatever you want, because that's what the comment section is for. But regardless, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys whenever I see you.